start to reach the coast around 4 to 5 p.m. this afternoon, and then as the storm goes on into time here, 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., probably around its closest approach to South Florida. So not moving our way, but the distance between the storm and South Florida is going to be just about at its closest, because after that point, the storm starts to pull away from South Florida, and then you can see it gets closer and closer to the Treasure Coast there, and then unfortunately closer and closer and almost right on the Space Coast there, the northern part of the Treasure Coast, St. Lucie County, on up into Vero Beach, Melbourne, Titusville. There's the Cape right there. And this is tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. So the storm has pulled away from South Florida. Our weather's improving by tomorrow morning, but now the folks on the East Coast really getting hammered there. Let's go to Lisette Gonzalez because she has a look at some of our local effects we're expecting here in South Florida. Lisette?
That's right, Craig. And as we take a look at the radar, there you see Category 4, Hurricane Matthew, I should say, as of the 11 advisory did strengthen. And there are the outer rain bands that are pushing through not only Palm Beach County right now getting slammed, but portions of Broward County also dealing with those fast-moving showers really around Lighthouse Point, portions of Oakland Park, Lauderdale Lakes, and these rain bands impacting Parkland, soaking portions of Coral Springs, Dania Beach, Cooper City, Davie, Hard Rock Stadium right now, that area near Southwest Ranches as well, dealing with these fast-moving showers around Miramar. We just had some heavy downpours race across portions of coastal Miami-Dade County. So Bay Harbor Island stretching all the way through Miami Beach and portions of North Miami, Miami Shores. You just got hit hard with some of those quick-moving downpours, as well as Opelika still dealing with the rain outside our studios in Doral, Sweetwater dealing with those fast-moving showers and still dealing with the rain around portions of Coral Gables, West Miami, Miami International Airport, Kendall, Palmetto Bay, Kendale Lakes, Cutler Bay, and down southward across Princeton, Leisure City, and Homestead, and even Florida City right now dealing with some heavy rain in spots. So this is the reason that we were recommending that you all hunker down, stay inside, because we are now starting to see those rain bands becoming not only more intense with some heavier rain embedded with some of these squalls, but also we are going to start to see those winds increasing, and you can see that just by the sheer view here of these showers and how quickly they're moving. So in terms of the rain here in South Florida, Broward, Day down through the Keys, we could see anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of rain with some higher isolated amounts in spots. But really, as Craig mentioned, the central east coast of Florida and even stretching all the way through the northeast coast of Florida, seeing the potential for flooding, 6 to 10 inches of rain and even higher amounts for some of those areas along the Treasure and Space Coast. And right now we're seeing those winds indeed increasing, sustained 15 to 21 miles per hour. And check out the peak wind gusts so far, anywhere from 36 to 38 miles per hour. So here's a timeline in terms of our local impacts here in South Florida. Winds, rain increasing this afternoon. In fact, the worst of the weather expected into the afternoon and into the evening. Damaging wind, torrential rain, the slight risk of tornadoes, as well as, of course, along the coast, we've got some storm surge and rough surf, dangerous conditions there. And then overnight, the weather should start to slowly improve. Of course, we will be here to keep you updated, to keep you informed and ready for whatever Hurricane Matthew brings our way. Elliot and Lauren.
Lisette, thanks a lot. We've got some news now here from Disney World, which should come as no surprise. Disney World says that because of Hurricane Matthew, Disney World theme parks, water parks, Disney Springs, miniature golf courses, and ESPN Wide World of Sports complex will be closed today at 5 o'clock and will remain closed through Friday, October 7th.
And also an update from the United States Postal Service. The post office is closed at about noon today, and now we're hearing that actual delivery of the mail between Miami-Dade County and St. Lucie County has been curtailed. It will continue down in the Keys, though. We do want to take a quick break. Before we do, we're going to show you some live pictures from Nassau, Bahamas, where Hurricane Matthew, a Category 4 storm, absolutely pounding that island chain right now.
President of the United States of America, I offer the Cuban people el saludo de paz.
Historic. Opening the U.S. to Cuba. A chance at a better life for millions of Cubans. For Cubans here, the chance to finally visit home. But Ileana Ros-Lehtinen clutches to the past, standing in the way of progress, turning her back on the Cuban people. I'm Scott Furman, and I approve this message because I will support the President's leadership, not stand in his way.
Remember why you got rid of former Congressman Joe Garcia? The scandals, election fraud, campaign payoffs, former employees sent to jail. Now Joe Garcia is running again and embarrassing you again. New court records reveal Garcia knew even more about his campaign's illegal activities. And recently, Garcia was caught making lewd and sexist comments about Hillary Clinton. Joe Garcia, he's embarrassed you long enough. NRCC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
My first name is Georgina, but they call me Gina. I love to go dance, bachata, merengue, and salsa. I had a simple fail. And from the fail, they took me to a trauma hospital in Maryland. When this doctor, I don't know him, and he doesn't know me either. And he was saying also that I'm gonna be in a wheelchair for 2 years. Since I said, no, I don't think so. Then I choose Chain Medical. And I like the way they work because they're always happy, they're always helpful, they always have an answer. And thanks God to my lifesaver, my angel, Dr. Manzano. I'm very happy that I met him. Besides being a doctor, is like a friend because he makes you feel more comfortable. When I got admitted in a hospital, he always calls to find out how we're doing. Dr. Manzano is there for the patient. And I'm here walking with no crutch, with no walker, and no wheelchair. And Dr. Manzano, I love you, baby.
Why aren't I 50 points ahead, you might ask?
Maybe it's because the director of the FBI said you lied about your email.
There was classified material emailed.
Or maybe it's because your policies have allowed ISIS and terrorism to spread. Or maybe it's because you call Americans deplorable.
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables. Why aren't I 50 points ahead, you might ask?
Do you really need to ask?
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
For the latest on Hurricane Matthew, keep it on CBS 4 News and CBSMiami.com. Tracking Hurricane Matthew. Count on the CBS 4 Storm Team for the latest on where the storm is headed. All eyes are on Hurricane Matthew. For all the safety information you need, keep it on CBS 4 News and CBSMiami.com.
Wanna taste?
That's okay.
How can you say no?
I already have this. It's all natural. Are you?
Of course.
Really?
Sure. There is the green leaf on my package.
Oh, look at that.
Meat.
You are watching CBS 4 News, continuous coverage of Hurricane Matthew. I'm Elliot Rodriguez with my colleague Vanessa Borch.
Good afternoon, everyone, and we are going to check in with the latest on Hurricane Matthew with our chief meteorologist, Craig Setzer. Craig.
Hey guys, my IFB just died. In other words, I couldn't hear a thing that you were saying.
Just saying hello, and so that you can give us the latest on Hurricane Matthew as of 1 o'clock this afternoon.
Okay, apparently we've got a press briefing from FPL, Florida Power and Light. Let's join that.
For those of you in the media, Twitter_FPL Newsroom. So with that said, what we're talking about is an extremely dangerous and deadly storm. Hurricane Matthew is forecasted to be a Category 4 storm when it strikes in the Cape Canaveral area. But what you see behind us is our command center that's been operational for several days. And we've been monitoring this storm really for the better part of a week, if not longer. We have in-house meteorologists who look at the weather really beginning when these storms are coming off the coast of Africa. And we have been monitoring this storm from the get-go. This is a very, very unique storm. It is approaching us in a way that is giving us some challenges for planning, but we are working through those. We have a total restoration workforce prepared to respond, greater than 15,000 workers. Of that, we're talking about 12,000 workers in the field, and then about 3,000 of those are support personnel. We have pre-positioned those folks throughout the service territory. So we're talking about the West Coast, we're talking about in the Tri-County area, we're talking about the Central area, Brevard County, Volusia. We're talking even in the north, where we will have support in St. John's, Duval County, and the areas that we are expecting to see damage. And the challenge of this storm is, by the very nature of it, when it comes in, and if it makes landfall along the Cape Canaveral area, it could move straight up the I-95 corridor. And for information, we service over half the state of Florida. FPL service territory runs basically from the border at Georgia, the Georgia border, south all the way down north of the Keys, and then back up toward Naples, Bradenton, and that area. Of the restoration workforce, pre-position, we have 6,500 overhead line, or our folks that were our teams that work on the overhead line sections. And then vegetation, we have about 3,000 workers. So we really have brought in and have pre-positioned a small army of responders. And we will continue to look at the requirements as the storm approaches and also as it strikes and then beyond. We also have set up 17 main staging sites and 12 supporting sites. These are where the crews that are coming from outside of the state of Florida, and also our own crews, will be working, pulling their trucks in. They're mini cities. They have the ability to take care of ensuring that all the needs of the workers are taken care of and that they're prepared to get out and respond as quickly as possible. The key thing for us is to be able to reduce the time it takes for our crews to get out and begin restoring power. So every minute for us matters. Now, what we're thinking at this point from a current forecast path, based on the path, the intensity, and our historical modeling, we're expecting we could see upwards of 2.5 million of our customers impacted. And to put that in perspective, that's over half of our 4.8 million customers that we serve. Now, the impacts of the storm will far exceed design standards of many homes and businesses, and that will also apply to our electrical system. Because of the nature of this storm, we are going to see situations where our customers will experience repeated outages. So what I mean by that is there may be an outage, it will be restored, another band of rain will come through, there will be another outage, and so forth. But what I can tell you is that our crews, so long as it's safe, and I'll talk about this in a second, so long as it's safe, our crews will be out responding and restoring power throughout the storm. Now, we're talking about a restoration effort, but in some cases, depending on where the storm strikes, we could be talking about literally a rebuilding of the electrical infrastructure. And that is a very important point to understand. We will be restoring power, but in some cases, the storm may do damage such that there is not much left of the infrastructure, just like it would be with homes and businesses. So we're not saying this to be alarmist. We're just being very candid and transparent with what we expect to see. Other challenges for us, of course, would be flooding, fallen structures, debris, vegetation. All of that can affect the ability of us to restore power quickly. And some specifics. If you think about it, this is the first major hurricane that we will be seeing in this territory, in the state of Florida, in more than a decade. And Mother Nature has not done much house cleaning, if you will. Trees, branches, palm fronds, things of that nature, they will all be flying around. And that will affect our overhead infrastructure, our lines, our poles. But it also will have an impact on underground infrastructure as well, underground lines, because you may have trees that are uprooted and they will pull those lines as well. To be very clear, we have invested $2 billion in the past decade to enhance our system, to make it more storm resistant, but no system is hurricane proof. We have inspected 1.4 million poles in that time. We've strengthened 600 of our main lines that serve hospitals, fire stations, 911 centers, and the like. From a vegetation perspective, we have a very aggressive vegetation management program, tree cutting, tree trimming, and we have trimmed approximately 135,000 miles in that time. And of course, we have installed 4.8 million smart meters, which allows us to have the ability to know when there is an outage on the other end at a customer's home or business. Though, given the nature of this storm, there may be times where the smart meter equipment could be challenged just by the very nature of that rebuild that I referred to. So I want to be very clear, there will be outages. Regardless of this investment, there will be outages. And the benefit, though, of the outage investment, or the investment that we have put in place, is that we will be able to restore power faster on the back end. That is the benefit of that investment. In some cases you can eliminate the need for, or eliminate outages, but in this case there will be outages. It'll just allow us to restore quicker.
Okay, that was the Chief Communications Officer for FPL there. A couple of things that he mentioned, which are probably pretty critical, is that the FPL service area basically runs north-south along the east coast of Florida from the Georgia border all the way down to the Keys. And he said an estimated 2.5 million of their 4.8 million customers could be impacted by this storm. He also went on to say that the infrastructure itself, the utility poles could be so damaged that they will have to be just completely replaced, as much you would see with homes and businesses in a Category 4 storm where it makes landfall. Here's the latest radar right now, and you can see the storm is moving a little bit more to the northwest. And I say a little bit more to the northwest. Let me put an arrow on here, and so that's generally northwest, but it may be turning just a little bit more to the right there on the radar. You see the arrow making little tiny adjustments there. And so the further it turns to the northwest, the better we would think it is for South Florida, because it's going to keep the stronger winds maybe even a little bit further away. Now, we're not talking about great distances here, and we're only talking about differences between maybe 70 and 80 miles an hour in North Broward to 65 to 75 miles an hour in some of the heavier squalls, and some wind gusts could still exceed 80 miles an hour in main locations. But that's the basic latest radar. And we're getting hourly updates now. They're called position updates. And so here is the 1 o'clock update. And still that movement that we've been talking about, that 325, we want that number to go up, because if it goes to the up, if it goes up rather, then it starts to mean that the storm is beginning its turn more and more to the northwest. All right, standing by at the National Hurricane Center, Dr. Richard Knabb. He is the director of the National Hurricane Center, and he, of course, is prepared like the rest of us with the storms. In fact, he lives pretty close to me in the western area of western Broward. He put his shutters up as well. Rick, can you hear me?
I can, Craig. Good afternoon.
Okay, good afternoon. So the latest hurricane hunters are finding what with the storm right now?
Well, we've been seeing the pressure drop all morning, and we had the stronger winds to bring up the intensity on the 11 a.m. We're going to continue to send the aircraft in and out. We should have more aircraft data to really mull over thoroughly by the time we issue our intermediate public advisory. And if not by then, we can update things, as you know, hourly with our tropical cyclone updates in between these 3 hourly intermediate advisories. So don't be surprised if there are some ups and downs in the intensity along the way here. But that doesn't make me feel any better. If I see the winds come down a little bit, they can come back up. And look, we're talking about a major hurricane coming near the coast and perhaps eventually onshore somewhere. It's not about the center of circulation. Here in South Florida, we're going to be the center of action in many ways with the heavy rainfall and the strong winds. You know, if we have power outages, that can be dangerous if people don't handle that well. Don't run a generator indoors. Don't set a bunch of candles up. There's just so many things we can do to keep ourselves safe and not get into a false sense of complacency because the center of circulation is offshore.
Right. And Rick, as you and I both know, it's a lot about the meteorology, but it's also a lot about people's responses to what we're telling them.
It absolutely is. And share with your neighbors, encourage one another to stay indoors today. And the weather's only going to get worse. These rain bands might come through, and then you maybe even see the sun come out, and you think, well, this isn't so bad, but it's going to get worse. The potency and the frequency of the rain bands will get stronger. This band out here that's impacting Freeport and is west of Bimini, that could have tropical storm force winds. This next one could have hurricane force winds. You take that and you put it a little farther northwest, you can start to get a picture of what it's going to look like tonight in South Florida. It's not going to be a safe thing to do to be out of your home.
Right, and real quickly, Rick, the last time Category 4 hit was Charlie in 2004. Compare the size of this storm and the intensity to Charlie.
Now, this is certainly larger than Charlie, maybe not as large as Wilma, horizontally in terms of the hurricane force winds, but look, it's large enough, it is strong enough, it's not just going to be a point on the map, and if you're following the cone of uncertainty and you think, oh, I'm out of that, so I'm out of danger, realize that the watches and warnings are in effect. We haven't taken down any warnings, and it's a wind event and a water event, coastal and inland, and if you know anybody who's been told to evacuate or it's been suggested to them because they're in a storm surge area or in a mobile home, let's encourage one another to get out of those dangerous areas. Let's save lives.
Okay, Rick, good talking to you. We'll talk with you again in just a little bit.
Thank you, Craig.
So Rick Knapp saying, of course, that the people who've been through hurricanes obviously know what the routine is. If you haven't been, if this is your first hurricane and you have neighbors or friends, ask them, what to expect next, things like that, because people tend to do better with people who've experienced one, like we have, right?
Absolutely.
And it does bring people together. You talk to your neighbors, hey, are you okay, something you need? No, they ask you the same thing, and that's how we've gotten through these in the past.
Absolutely. And Craig, I had a quick question for you. So if anybody's just joining us now at 1:12 in the afternoon, and they're just joining us and seeing the path, and you just said it may be moving a little bit further north from us, so our friends to the north, who's going to be impacted by that core? And of course, that's where we know the worst of the conditions are.
Right, that's right. And let me show you where the core is expected to go, or the worst of it is expected to go. So this is the current position there, and it's just north of Andros, and the red here is the hurricane force winds, and then there's that core that's just about the size of the icon right there, where the destructive, the very, very high wind speed destructive part of the hurricane is located. And this is the 1 p.m. position, so this is where we are right now. As we go into time here, and we're not even really going to show you the cone because the cone doesn't explain all of this. This is the center going through the center of the cone, the storm tracking through the cone. Here we are at 8 p.m. You can see the tropical storm force winds throughout much of South Florida, and the center getting closer and closer to the coast as it begins its slow turn to the north. And a big deal, if it turns a little bit more slowly, then it's onshore. If it turns a little more quickly, then it's just hugging the coast there. Both could be equally as bad, but certainly going right along the coast would be much, much more severe because of the storm surge potential. And then after that, it is slowly up the coast here as I advance it forward, 9 p.m., 10 p.m. Here's midnight. It's now South Florida is starting to pull away from South Florida, and we're still in some rain bands. And then it's right there paralleling the coast or on the coast or slightly inland. Here we are 7 a.m. tomorrow, and that's up by the Cape there, 8 a.m. and then up in towards Daytona Beach by about noon tomorrow, the core there. So you can see kind of a long track there as it moves to the north, Vanessa, and a lot of folks are going to be impacted by this storm.
And by that time here in South Florida, you were saying earlier it may be sunny. So within the next 12 to 24 hours, it's going to be quite a change here in South Florida.
Yeah, so in the next 12 hours, the weather's going to get increasingly bad, and then after that, it's going to gradually get better, and it'll probably just be a windy, sunny day by tomorrow afternoon with some rain bands. So in about 24 hours, the sun will be back out, but it'll still be windy. We'll still know that there's something close by.
Craig, one last quick question. When I look at the eye of the storm, I look at that northwest quadrant, or what you call the dirty side of the hurricane. That's got the strongest winds right there. Is there any chance that this storm could bypass the state of Florida, could go up, skirt up the coast, but that dirty side of the eye does not hit land?
So there is that chance, because in the Hurricane Center's forecast, they do indicate the possibility that it could go right along the coast there. And typically the right side of the storm, which would be this side over here, that may stay offshore. But the real concern at this point, because the core is so close, is where that core is going to go, and that core is so destructive too. This area, all of the east coast of Florida, and now even tropical storm warnings up for the west coast of Florida, but all of Florida is going to feel the impacts of this. The thing that we're concerned about, of course, is the core of the storm, where buildings get destroyed, especially weaker built buildings. And the building code is not as strong through central and north Florida as it is here in South Florida. So those homes will not fare as well as they would in South Florida.
Yeah, we all know that we learned a difficult lesson after Hurricane Andrew, where our building code was made to be one of the strongest in the country. country, and now is when we're thankful that we have something like that here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And right before we spoke with Craig, we showed you a live report from FPL at the Riviera Command Center, Riviera Beach Command Center. And from 12:53 this afternoon, here's the outages here in South Florida affecting South Florida. So in Broward County, 890 people are out, or homes are out, and businesses. Palm Beach, 820 out, and Miami-Dade, 930. They've been able to restore a number of homes and businesses as well for the electricity there. But of the 4.8 million customers that FPL works with, 2.5 million will be impacted by the storm. That's from the VP of FPL, Rob Gould.
And what's comforting to know is that FPL has a veritable army out there right now. They've got 6,500 overhead line crews on duty in their service area, 3,000 vegetation workers, and so they are out there ready to respond. And we have to make this clear: if you call FP&L because your power is out, they will respond as long as it is safe for their crews to do that. As long as they can do it safely, they will do it, even if it means that they restore power and then you get a power outage, they come out again, and they're fully expecting that. I mean, really, they were extremely candid when they spoke a little while ago, when that representative you mentioned spoke. Very candid, saying, folks, we expect for 2.5 million customers to be impacted. We expect there to be outages. We are ready to deal with it, but folks are going to have to be understanding and know that this is the biggest storm that Florida has dealt with in a decade.
And they also mentioned in that press conference that there could be repeated outages. So you may have your power restored, and then once again you could see a strand of storm, and then that power will go out once again. You're taking a live look right now. This is of Cocoa Beach. And
Lauderdale by the Sea.
Lauderdale by the Sea. And Kerry Codd, we actually have him, our reporter, live in Cocoa Beach. Now, this is just southeast of Orlando, just north of Melbourne, if you're not familiar with the area of Cocoa Beach. What are you seeing out there right now, Kerry?
Lots, Vanessa, actually. Let me show you. Take a look. We've still got some people up here coming out, taking photographs, wanting to capture a few moments before Hurricane Matthew in the next few hours is expected to impact us pretty significantly here. About 30 minutes or so ago, before we went on the air, some weather came across the ocean very quickly. There was a group of people out there, and they hightailed it off the beach because you could just see the wind and the water coming off of the ocean. We got pretty well soaked, which was a big change from an hour ago when we were last live on the air. It was pretty warm out here. Actually, the sun was beating down on us so much I went back and put on some sunblock, which at this point I definitely did not need. If you take a look over here at the Cocoa Beach Pier, you can see the waves coming in, beginning to really make their presence felt, beginning to crash into the pier. The pier has, of course, been closed since yesterday, going to be closed until at least Saturday. We do want to show you some video that we took throughout the afternoon here. Take a look. We can show you some video of a couple of surfers that were out here around 10:30 this morning, a group of 4 young men who went out and caught some waves. Obviously, not in the best interest of anybody at this point. The governor has been very vociferous in his feeling that people should not come out and be in the water at this point. Also, we had lots of people out walking dogs, taking pictures on the beach. We spoke to one of those surfers. We also spoke to a man who is home with his bedridden mother and is very concerned about the storm surge. Here's what they said.
If you go out there right now, the smallest wave out there will knock you off your feet, okay? So you figuring one in about 10 hours, we're going to have 15-footers breaking out here. They're probably down there across day 1A.
I've been on a couple of trips to like different places around the world and seen a little bit more powerful ocean than we could ever get here. So it's not too scary. But I mean, it would be really scary if you didn't know what you're doing out here, that's for sure.
That is absolutely for sure. And we have not seen anyone else even try to venture out into the water other than those 4 young men throughout the morning. And we've been out here since about 4 o'clock this morning. I can tell you we've spoken repeatedly throughout the morning with emergency management officials here in Brevard County. And as you heard in the FPL news conference there a short time ago, there's a great deal of concern that this area will be directly impacted by Hurricane Matthew. We are being told they're anticipating wind gusts of up to 130 miles per hour, sustained winds 95 to 110 miles an hour, a storm surge of up to 8 feet. and rainfall in some areas of about 12 inches. Those are a lot of numbers to throw at you, but those are significant numbers that add up to a potentially very significant impact from this hurricane. We've seen the number of people come out here dwindle over the last 20 or 30 minutes, obviously, as the weather has certainly turned. One woman told me she likes to come out and get the before picture and the after picture. This was the before picture, obviously. She's decided to stay in her home here on the island despite a mandatory evacuation for residents. She said she's kind of got a bunker set up at her home, tons of food, an interior room that she says is very well protected. And of course, you know, some people are just not comfortable leaving their home. That gentleman that you heard from talking about the storm surge, he explained to us that his mother is bedridden and that to move her would be much more difficult than staying in a home that they feel is secure. So those are the kinds of choices that residents up and down the Florida coast have been making in the last few days and are even making now as you know, the effects of Hurricane Matthew maybe begin to be felt throughout different parts of the state. So that's the story out here. Back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Kerry, I don't know if you can hear us or not, but Cocoa Beach, one of the prettiest beaches in Florida, it's home to the Ron John Surf Shop. And if there's any place in Florida that you're going to find surfers, it has to be Cocoa Beach. Kerry, am I right or not?
Absolutely, Elliot. Actually, when we drove into the hotel where we are here on the beach, we can tell you, it's been a long time since I've been here. I forgot just how massive that Ron John complex is. I mean, it takes up like 2 city blocks. It is enormous. In fact, I figured with the Ron John Surf Shop being just a stone's throw from where we are, that we would see more people potentially out here trying to brave these waters at this point. But and actually, we did have a young man who came up earlier this morning who took a 15 or 20 minute view of the ocean and basically said, I don't think the waves are quite good enough yet. He was debating whether to go out and surf, and he eventually decided against it. So, you know, obviously you've got some diehard folks who really want to get out and enjoy, you know, this type of weather, which we don't see very often, thankfully, in South Florida.
Yeah, they are the diehards, and they always say the same thing. We know what we're doing,
right.
But again, it's not advisable.
Absolutely, because every year we always talk about near drownings or unfortunately drownings. So Kerry Codd live in Cocoa Beach. Again, this is just north of Melbourne and southeast of Orlando. That's the area that Kerry Codd is live in right now, and you can see behind him that wind and the surf is kicking up quite a bit. From the last 20 or 30 minutes ago, Kerry saying that a number of people that were out there earlier now no longer out there. They're heeding that advice. They're moving indoors. And then we also heard from Craig Setzer earlier this morning that at 12 p.m. your preparations should have been done. 3 p.m. you need to be inside. So for the next hour and a half, obviously now isn't the time where you should be moving everything indoors, your family, your pets. For now, we're going to go to commercial break, but we are leaving you with a live look right now on Nassau, Bahamas. That is where Hurricane Matthew is pounding the island right now.
They have so many more models here. Why didn't we come here first?
How long has she had FOBO?
Oh, this is huge.
FOBO? There are better options. It's when you regret not shopping at H.H. Gregg first.
Oh, no, this one. No, this is the one I want.
Hang in there, buddy.
Discover all the options you want during H.H. Gregg's Columbus Day sale. Up to 30% off store-wide plus 36-month special financing and free delivery. All with our low price guarantee. Appliances, electronics, furniture. H.H. Gregg.
Did you know that a 1 penny sales tax in Broward can generate $300 million per year, 1/3 of which will come from tourists? Together, passing the 2 half-cent ballot questions can build our community by providing rapid transit options that are more convenient, smarter intersections and traffic lights that can help you get to work on time, and improved school zones that are safer for our kids. Both ballot questions must pass, or both will fail. For more information, go to apennyatwork.com.
Carlos Curbelo and Donald Trump, they're more alike than you think.
Carlos Curbelo says he has our back on immigration reform, but he gives money to people who are opposing it.
To anti-immigrant politicians.
Who supported suing President Obama, are supporting Trump's wall.
And called for natural-born citizens to be deported. American citizens.
Let me tell you, Carlos, when you side with Donald Trump on immigration, you don't side with us.
Carlos Curbelo talks a good game when it comes to immigration, but look where his money goes.
DCCC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Wanna taste?
That's okay.
How can you say no?
I already have this. It's all natural. Are you?
Of course.
Really?
Sure. There's the green leaf on my package.
Oh, look at that.
Meat.
Tracking Hurricane Matthew. Count on the CBS 4 Storm Team for the latest on where the storm is headed. All eyes are on Hurricane Matthew. For all the safety information you need, keep it on CBS 4 News and CBSMiami.com.
Carlos Curbelo and Donald Trump, they're more alike than you think.
Carlos Cabello says he has our back on immigration reform, but he gives money to people who are opposing it.
To anti-immigrant politicians
who supported suing President Obama, are supporting Trump's wall.
And called for natural-born citizens to be deported. American citizens.
Let me tell you, Carlos, when you side with Donald Trump on immigration, you don't side with us.
Carlos Cabello talks a good game when it comes to immigration, but look where his money goes.
DCCC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
A packed bag can represent a lot of things. Vacations, weekends away. But your bag is different. It's a defense against your monthly period. If you experience heavy periods related to uterine fibroids, you may be eligible to participate in a uterine fibroid research study. Qualified participants will receive study-related care and investigational medication at no cost. To see if you qualify, call 1-844-31-STUDY or visit myfibroidstudy.com.
For the latest on Hurricane Matthew, keep it on CBS 4 News and CBSMiami.com.
We continue our coverage of Hurricane Matthew, a powerful Category 4 storm, which right now is pummeling the Bahamas and is approaching Florida. The latest advisory shows it going a little bit further north. Good news for South Florida, but not so much for our neighbors to the north. In Central Florida and parts there, they are looking at a very, very powerful hurricane. Here in South Florida, we are dealing with those feeder bands already. This is a live picture from Doral looking towards Miami International Airport, where this storm is affecting travel.
Absolutely. We have Lisa Petrillo in our newsroom right now, and she's going to give us an update on all the airports, including Miami International. Lisa.
That's right, guys. Well, as we expected, the airports are closing, and right now, as of 10:30 this morning, actually, Fort Lauderdale International Airport is closed. Let's look at some of the pictures that they tweeted out. You can see there the scene at the hub at Southwest Airlines at Fort Lauderdale. There is outside, and Fort Lauderdale tweeted these pictures out a little while ago. It's been a virtual ghost town as their operation prepares for the arrival of Hurricane Matthew. From the check-in areas, as you see, to the gates, it's closed for flights until further notice. Palm Beach International was closed at noon. No flights in or out there as well. And as the weather progressively gets worse this afternoon, as it moves on, it's going to get worse. MIA is technically open now, but hardly any flights are coming in or out. So Miami International is technically open, but nothing's really happening. The last inbound flight is expected to come into Miami at 3:15. So expect, we were talking here that we think after that 3:15 it will shut down. Yes. And I'm live from the newsroom. Lisa Petrillo, back to you.
All right, Lisa, thanks a lot. This affecting a lot of people. In fact, I was planning on traveling myself. What happens is, even if you're not taking a flight today, let's say you're taking a flight tomorrow from Miami International or from Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, you could be affected because the incoming flight from the day before was backed up, and it's just a chain reaction effect. So this is affecting a lot of people, just like we have to have patience as far as FPNL is concerned, and as far as just staying home and hunkering down is concerned. You have to have patience if you're traveling as well.
And of course, who would want to be flying in this kind of weather? You're taking a live look right now. This is Lauderdale by the Sea. We have a live camera over that area, and it's 1:30 right now, so we want to get the latest on Hurricane Matthew if you're just joining us, and we have Chief Meteorologist Craig Setzer with the latest. Craig.
Yeah, the latest is that we're seeing now tropical storm force wind gusts, well into tropical storm force wind gusts at Fowey Rocks. Fowey Rocks is a reef light that's about 8 miles to the southeast of Key Biscayne, and it has a weather station on it, and so now winds gusting to 53 miles an hour there. It's a little bit offshore, and the anemometer, the wind instrument, is kind of high up, so it's probably not representative of what's going on at the ground. But these are these stronger gusts now that are starting to come in. So here's the latest radar, and you can see on the radar there the eye very, very clearly. And this is what we call the business part of the hurricane. This is where the the most destructive winds are. This is where the winds are sustained at around 140 miles an hour with higher gusts. And this is the part of the hurricane that if it goes over you, it just pretty much tears up everything that it can. And that is not very, very, very reinforced or very secured. Other thing that we're seeing now is this other band right here that's starting to form. You can see it right here, and it's almost round. And in between that band and the eye, there's kind of an absence right there. We call this a moat. It's like a moat around a castle in a way, and it's in the hurricane terms, it's just a break between one eye wall or one like eye core and one inner eye core. And so sometimes we see what we call eye wall replacement cycles, where that outer one will shrink down and choke off the inner one, and then you've got like a bigger hurricane. Let's hope that doesn't happen, but we are seeing this now starting to pick up here. The winds are still strong in this moat area here, but they're the strongest right there in the center where the eye is located. So it's moving gradually to the northwest there, and you can see the outer bands now increasingly impacting South Florida. This is pretty much as expected here. There's really no big surprises in the latest advisory. There's no big surprises in what's going on right now, and there may be little wobbles with the storm, a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, but nothing that is going to make us say, uh-oh, this is a problem. It doesn't look that way right now. Here come these bands now coming closer to the beaches right there and the coast, and then let me show you. I'm going to skip over. This is the 1 p.m. position update, but this is what I want to show you right here. So this is the damaging wind potential. These are where we would see the best chances for hurricane force wind gusts or gusts over 74 miles an hour. And you can see there's quite the difference between Palm Beach County, where the values are around 69 there, 70% chance of hurricane force wind gusts. In Broward, the wind chances of hurricane force wind gusts are about 31%. And in Miami there at MIA, the chances are only about 9%. So the weather gets tremendously worse as you go from south to north across the area. The Keys, the value is very low. And then we have the hurricane wind potential. We call this the destructive wind potential because this is where the significant damage can occur. And oops, let me back it up a little bit there and show you South Florida, because this is where we would expect to see widespread power outages and also possible widespread damage. Values very low here in South Florida and Miami. Fort Lauderdale, only 9%, so that's a low value too. And then the numbers go up quite a bit as we get into Palm Beach County at 34% chance of hurricane force winds. That's winds sustained at 74 miles an hour. And then just absurdly, astronomically high numbers up here for destructive wind potential there, nearly 80% in Melbourne. So clearly we're thinking about our viewers and our folks and friends of viewers that live up the East Coast there, because that is going to be a very, very destructive event. But in terms of our local weather here, Lisette Gonzalez has more on that. Lisette?
All right. Thank you, Craig, and good afternoon to all of you at home. Already starting to deal with those gusty squalls as we look at a Category 4 hurricane monster of a Hurricane Matthew just off to our east and over the Bahamas. Palm Beach already getting slammed, but we're going to focus in on Broward County. We're seeing these fast-moving showers. They're racing from the north and east to the south and west at about 20 to 25 miles per hour across Lighthouse Point, Deerfield Beach, Pompano Beach, Oakland Park, Fort Lauderdale, Tamarack, Sunrise, and Dania Beach, Cooper City, Davie. And we're seeing some heavier rain here just off to the east of Dania Beach and Hallandale Beach. So get ready for those fast-moving downpours. Also dealing with some showers that just raced across Miami shores, speeding across Miami Beach earlier. Now another round of showers, some more rain bands on the way for you in Miami Beach, as well as in downtown Miami. Doral getting a shower, and Coral Gables as well getting soaked right now. And we're also seeing those on and off again showers, those squalls right through Princeton, Naranja, Leisure City, Homestead, and Florida City, as well as across the Upper Keys right now, getting drenched. And in terms of the rainfall potential for Broward, Dade, and through the Keys, we could see anywhere from 2 to even up to 4 inches of rain with some isolated higher amounts. However, just as Craig mentioned, unfortunately for our friends or family that live along the central and northeast coast of Florida and even down into into Palm Beach County, we could see anywhere from 6 to 10 inches of rain with some isolated amounts of over 10 inches for some spots, and that means the potential for some devastating flooding due to Hurricane Matthew as it does ride up or remains just parallel to the east coast of Florida through tomorrow. So the winds right now increasing anywhere from 5 to 17 miles per hour, and we are seeing those peak wind gusts approaching tropical storm force, which would be at 39 miles per hour. Right now, the highest 36 miles per hour in Pompano Beach, 33 in Fort Lauderdale, 38 in Homestead. Actually, that is the highest, and it'll start to get even blustier as we head into the afternoon. In fact, we've been telling you how you can't just focus on where the center of the circulation or the core of the hurricane will be. Even if it remains offshore, we will likely feel the impacts here in South Florida. Now, you're seeing the yellow representing wind speeds that could be up to 39 miles per hour, meaning tropical storm force, and then 58 mile per hour hurricane force wind gusts possible. And then, of course, with the red, those are the sustained hurricane winds at 74 miles per hour. So here we are in South Florida, and as we head into the afternoon and the evening, that's when we're going to see the potential for some dangerous and possibly even damaging gusty winds and tropical storm force winds possible for Miami-Dade County, for Broward County, and Palm Beach counties. We're talking the potential for hurricane force wind gusts. And as we head throughout your Friday, of course, we're seeing the possibility of a Category 4 riding up the central northeast coast of Florida, and it could be quite destructive and catastrophic, really. In terms of our local forecast, afternoon, we are seeing winds and rain increasing. We've already urged all of you to stay inside and just hunker down and just wait until this dangerous hurricane passes. This evening, damaging wind, torrential rain. Overnight, the weather should start to slowly improve. However, again, mentioning the fact that we could see tropical storm hurricane force conditions, dangerous winds, heavy rain, flooding, storm surge as well possible here along the coast of South Florida, although not as severe as what we're going to see in central North Florida. There is a slight risk of tornadoes and also dangerous surf and beach erosion. Elliot and Vanessa.
Lisette, when's the worst portion going to be here in South Florida? What time frame can you expect?
We're expecting in the afternoon and the evening, so especially around 3, 4 p.m. and then likely throughout those hours into the evening, 7, 8, 9 p.m. That is when we're going to see the potential for Hurricane Matthew to make its closest approach or just be off to our east, and then it is likely going to be getting close to Palm Beach County or remaining offshore. But regardless of whether Matthew makes landfall somewhere along the east coast of Florida or just stays off to our east and over the Bahamas, it's such a massive hurricane that the effects will be very wide-reaching, and we will see these potential impacts that we've been talking about and that we'll continue to talk about throughout the day today.
All right, thank you, Lisette. And after 4 o'clock, that's the time you definitely don't want to be outdoors.
Absolutely, and we've been seeing from our reporters out on the field so many people outdoors still at 1:38 in the afternoon. That should not be the case. Heed the advice of all of our meteorologists. Head indoors. You can take a look right here, Lauderdale by the Sea. It is pounding that coastline right there, and it's only going to get worse as the day continues.
Yeah, you can just barely make out the pier there in Lauderdale by the Sea. There's a little area there to the left with restaurants and a very nice area where people walk up and down and do business. Those businesses, of course, are closed, and people near the shore have been evacuated. We have a notice here from the Fort Lauderdale Fire Rescue Department saying that Fort Lauderdale Beach is officially closed and that the Fort Lauderdale Police Department and Ocean Rescue will be enforcing the closure. So that's something we haven't seen in other beaches, where the beaches are closed but people are still hanging out. In Fort Lauderdale, if the police see you out there by the beach, they will inform you that the beach is closed, it's not safe to be there, and you will be asked to leave.
And it's hard to make out from this live shot. This is Lauderdale by the Sea, but can hardly even make out the picture there, but it doesn't look like there's people out there. Just north of Lauderdale by the Sea at Deerfield Beach Pier, we have Joan Murray live. And Joan, are you seeing anybody out there behind you in Deerfield Beach?
Yeah, and there is, they haven't announced any kind of closures here. In fact, we've been seeing people all morning. It's a little more empty than it was about an hour ago. Take a look over there where people are climbing the steps to go down to the beach. Many people say because it's such an unusual experience, they want to see the hurricane, even though emergency management officials, as of 1 p.m., were urging everyone to stay indoors. But at this point, we've seen a couple of BSO deputies, but nobody is asking anybody to leave the beach. We don't know know if that's going to change as the afternoon goes on and the weather worsens. Now look out there to the ocean. We've been seeing anything from 3 to 5 foot to 7 foot swells hitting the pier down there. Pier seems to be doing okay. That is a pier that has taken a battering in past storms. Down here, a little bit further down, you see those were volleyball nets. They've removed the nets, of course, to prevent them from blowing away. And a little bit further down there, you see the lifeguard stand. As of 11 o'clock this morning, all the Ocean Rescue left the beach here. So people, it's really up to their own devices. And officials are just urging everyone to be as cautious, but they do recommend people to go inside at this point because the weather is only going to deteriorate. Now, right over here, you see a lot of people hanging out. Again, a lot of people taking pictures. I'm going to talk to one gentleman here, Brian, if you can come in. So you're from Deerfield Beach. You're here with a big group. How are things secure at your home?
Well, we have plenty of Bud Light. We put a little wood on the windows, and we have a lot of turkey dinners, sauerkraut balls, and walrus tenders.
So it sounds like you got a lot of food ready. Do you feel set for the storm?
We feel really set. The only thing I'm missing is a little more Bud Light for Bobby right here.
Okay, I know that's one thing people are fortifying.
And we want the nets up to play some volleyball.
Sounds good. Okay, all right, so here at the beach again, I want to, as I was walking to my live shot, I wanted you to take a look at this. Of course, there's a small palm frond that came off the tree, but that's really the big concern. As you go around the streets, you see a lot of limbs. This is a small one. But as time goes on, the big concern is more of these limbs coming down. As an FPL mentioned, when that happens, a lot of times the power lines come down, and that was a major problem during Hurricane Wilma 11 years ago. So many power lines came down, and it took so long for FPL to fix it. Many of us were without power. I was without power for 2 weeks. We spoke to a gentleman. He was without power for a month. So again, that's a big concern, especially if you live anywhere near the ocean, if you're in the coastal areas where you may get hit with some heavy winds and the power lines may come down and you may be without power. So again, if that does happen to you, you're urged, don't use candles, use flashlights, be cautious, don't go outside, be aware of any down power lines around your house. We're going to be out here this afternoon and let you know as conditions change here. But for now, live from Deerfield Beach, Joan Murray, CBS 4 News.
Joan, it's good to know there's a party going on in Deerfield Beach with homemade turkey and Bud Light. Vanessa, too bad we have to be here.
Yeah, we have grapes and water. We're having a party here at the studio as well.
Joan, I'm curious, are most of the people out there
people having
locals?
A good time. It's one way they're getting a release. Yeah.
Absolutely, completely understood. Are most of the folks out there locals? You seen any tourists?
We have seen some tourists. We're actually at the northern end of the pier. This is actually the area where the surfers, the guys are allowed to be on their boards. Now, fortunately, you haven't seen anybody out there. And that's a little bit unusual, I can say from experience, that in this kind of weather, frequently the surfboarders come out and are riding those waves, even though it may be a little bit dangerous. So whether they are just following the orders to not be out there because of the rough conditions and the possibility, the danger of getting hurt. We haven't seen anybody surfing, not too many people going into the water, maybe at water's edge. But south of the pier here are the hotels. Many tourists, it's the first time they've ever seen anything like this. People out with their cameras, they've been taking pictures, asking people to do selfies with them. So it's, good idea to get inside pretty soon because the winds are only going to get worse.
And have you seen a major shift in the conditions out there, Joan, in the last, let's say, couple of hours?
I would say, it kind of comes and goes. I'll be honest with you. We've had some sprinkling of rain. A couple hours ago, we had some heavy gusts. And now and then the sun will peek through, strangely enough, and then it'll degenerate again. The winds start picking up. So at times you feel the squalls, more intensity. We're told, like for people who have the meters out here, it's been going anywhere from 20 to 30 miles an hour. Nothing, though, I wouldn't say we've gotten anything hurricane strength or severe tropical storm strength at this point. But if it continues as it's going, I think there is a good possibility we'll keep seeing the intensity of the winds.
Oh, yeah, you can bet on that. Those are the outer bands, and we heard from the National Hurricane Center that's just going to continue, and they're going to get stronger. So right now you have some rain that comes in, then it stops. That's going to continue happening, but it's going to be stronger rain. I have to say it's good to see that people are not in the water. They're out there, they're looking at it, and it appears that everybody is being safe and nobody is going in that water, because that would not be a good idea at all.
And Joan even mentioned earlier that there's no lifeguards out there, so if you do go in the water, you are risking your own life. Nobody's going to risk their own and go out there to try to save you, so please stay out of the water, and hopefully all these people are going to be moving in the next couple of minutes or so, because it is looking like it's getting worse and worse as those squalls start pushing through, and we're going to start seeing some storm surge, which means that those sea levels are just going to get higher and higher throughout the day. About 8 feet, I think, is what we were told earlier in some areas of Florida on the coast.
All right, Joan, good job. We'll be checking back with you from time to time. Joan Murray reporting live from Deerfield Beach. And Vanessa, we have some news from the White House. And Governor Rick Scott had said earlier that he requested a declaration, an emergency declaration from the White House, and he's gotten it.
Yes, he did. White House actually just told us that the President of the United States, President Obama, has signed an emergency declaration for the state of Florida ahead of Hurricane Matthew affecting us.
And what that does is that opens up federal aid from FEMA and other agencies that come to Florida to make it faster. So this is what Governor Rick Scott requested, and now that emergency declaration has been approved by the White House, and we have, in fact, an interview or a statement that came just a little while ago from the White House and Press Secretary Josh Earnest. Let's take a listen.
We strongly encourage people who live in the areas that are likely to be affected to heed the warnings and instructions of local officials, including evacuation orders. The instructions that are being offered by local officials are informed by information that they are receiving from scientists and from federal officials, and those instructions are geared toward protecting people, and we believe that it's important for people to listen to those instructions. We also encourage people to stay up to date on the weather forecast. Those of you who have been covering this story know that the weather forecast, or the forecast track of the storm, has changed multiple times just this week. So it certainly is not outside the realm of possibility that could change once again. We want to encourage people to stay up to date on that. But what we did learn overnight is that it's likely that the storm could strengthen further before making landfall, and that obviously is deeply concerning. So we want people to be prepared.
That was Press Secretary John Earnest. He's making sure we all know that they have signed that emergency declaration for Florida. The White House has signed it, so we are going to be able to get some help here in Florida. And FEMA does have an app that you would be able to obviously apply for help from FEMA, as they have signed that emergency declaration for Florida. Now, in terms of here in South Florida, what has been affected already are power outages. So at 12:53, we got the latest numbers from FPNL. In Broward County, 1,540 people were affected. And then if you're heading in Miami-Dade, it was 4,150. Broward County, 7,150. And then in Palm Beach, 1,000 people affected with power outages. So if you're in those areas, in those counties, those are the people that are affected. And then, of course, they have their number, 311, as well, if you have power outages. But again, remember, they only have so many crews.
Right.
They only have so many people that can get out and help you. And they also told us as well from a press conference earlier today that they are going to be repeated outages because of all the storms and rains coming in and out throughout the day.
All right, now I have to tell you, Vanessa, math is not my strongest skill, but I'm adding this up, and it's about roughly 12,000 customers or homes that FPNL right now reports in South Florida are without power. It seems like a lot, but not really when you think about what FPNL said just a little while ago, that they expect 2.5 million customers in Florida to be impacted. This is just the beginning, folks. FPNL says that they have 6,500 overhead line crews at the ready to respond to power outages, and they have 3,000 vegetation worker crews also ready to respond. But this is for their entire area, which goes basically from the Miami-Dade, Monroe County line south, going all the way north up to the Georgia-Florida line, and that is a big territory that FP&L has. They fully expect that there are going to be massive outages in the state of Florida. They're asking people to have patience, but that they will respond, but they can only respond when it is safe for their crews to be out there. They're not going to be out during hurricane-force winds. They're not going to be out during tropical storm winds. They're going to be out when it's safe for their crews to do their job, and that's why people have been told, have batteries, have flashlights, have
generators,
patience, have patience, have generators. If you're one of the lucky ones and the smart ones with a generator, you may need your generator. Please, please be careful with the generator. It must be outside. Never ever turn on a generator in your garage or anywhere indoors. It has to be outside, away from your neighbor's window. Don't have it there, and use it safely. The generator is really a lifesaver in these situations, and already we're seeing those numbers add up. Again, 4,150 customers in Miami-Dade, 7,150 in Broward, and 1,000 FP&L customers in Palm Beach already.
Seeing power outages, and they even mentioned earlier that this storm may be hit so bad in the northern portions of Florida that the electrical infrastructure could be damaged as well as a result of Hurricane Matthew. Now, we do want to remind you to send us pictures and videos if you can, but safely, that is the word, if you can do so safely. Again, we want you to be indoors and safe with your family and friends, but if you can, send us pictures and videos. You can see the email address right there, cbs4pics@cbs.com. We'll be right back with more on Hurricane Matthew.
Republican Carlos Curbelo and Donald Trump's ideas about the environment are more alike than what you think. Curbelo talks about protecting our environment.
Because protecting our environment isn't just a slogan to me.
That's when he's campaigning. But in Congress,
this is where it all begins, an oil rig in the Gulf of Mexico.
Curbelo supports drilling offshore, just like Trump. And Curbelo repeatedly voted against President Obama's ability to fight pollution and combat climate change. You can't have it both ways.
DCCC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
You know, you paid too much for those glasses.
Who?
You. They charged you too much.
Who?
Practically everyone. Unless, of course, you shopped at America's Best.
Who?
America's Best. Where 2 pairs of glasses and a free eye exam are just $69.95.
Ooh.
Yep, that's America's Best.
Who?
Please, just keep up. 2 pairs and a free exam for $69.95. It's not just a better deal, it's America's Best.
Carlos Curbelo and Donald Trump, they're more alike than you think.
Carlos Curbelo says he has our back on immigration reform, but he gives money to people who are opposing it.
To anti-immigrant politicians.
Who supported suing President Obama, are supporting Trump's wall.
And called for natural-born citizens to be deported. American citizens.
Let me tell you, Carlos, when you side with Donald Trump on immigration, you don't side with us.
Carlos Curbelo talks a good game when it comes to immigration, but look where his money goes.
DCCC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Wanna taste?
That's okay.
How can you say no?
I already have this. It's all natural. Are you?
Of course.
Really?
Sure. There's the green leaf on my package.
Oh, look at that.
Meat.
Tracking Hurricane Matthew. Count on the CBS 4 Storm Team for the latest on